Episode 5 of Silo Season 2 traces the sequence of events that culminate in the rebellion reaching a boiling point as Juliet tries to figure out how to get back home. As it slowly builds to its crescendo, the Apple TV Plus series, which is based on the Hugh Howey Silo book series, has finally accelerated halfway through its duration. Even though there are still a lot of unanswered questions in the series, Episode 5 of Season 2 confirms that viewers will learn a lot more about Juliet's fate and Solo's true identity before the season concludes. Even with Bernard's version of events, the science fiction series for Apple TV Plus appears to be moving into a fascinating new area where, as he gains a deeper understanding of Salvador Quinn's coded letter, he will soon discover some frightening realities about the society he lives in. By implying that Bernard might not be able to hold down the escalating revolt for very long, Silo Season 2 Episode 5 also sets the stage for a dramatic second half of the season in its closing scenes. Juliet will then have to race against time to get home before it's too late, which puts a ticking clock on her head. Unfortunately, Juliet faces numerous obstacles that prevent her from returning home, despite her awareness of the importance of her mission. Finding or making an insulated coat that would shield her from the outer world was her major obstacle until Episode 5. In Episode 4 of Silo Season 2, she discovers a firefighter's uniform, but she knows she can't use it. When she unexpectedly becomes seriously ill, things take a bad turn. Solo believes that her lack of food since arriving is the only reason she is exhausted. Thus, in an attempt to assist her, he gives her food. When Juliet queried Solo about his past and his timeline in the silo in Episode 4 of Season 2, Solo acted suspiciously. When Juliet confronts him in Episode 5 after finding out that another person in the silo was named Solo, he becomes even more unpredictable. Solo has thus far provided two distinct explanations for his self-description. He introduced himself as Solo when Juliet first met him, stating that he stays alone in Silo 17. Juliet discovers a photograph of a different man in Episode 5, with the name Solo scribbled on the frame. She comes to the realization that Solo is not who she believes him to be, and that the only person who survived Silo 17 has been deceiving her. Solo loses his temper and snaps at Juliet when she asks if he is the shadow of the IT head. He shouts that he is the late mayor's shadow in order to defend himself, but there is obviously more to him than meets the eye. It's probable that Solo was his father's nickname, which he just took after his passing. Knowing that Shirley and Knox will become the leaders of the impending uprising if they are successful, Bernard attempts to prevent them from going back to the mechanical. To his dismay, he tries to stop them, but in the end, Knox and Shirley return, which makes the residents of the lower levels more and more angry with the higher floors. Bernard seemed to have created his own grave by killing Meadows, the only person who could have assisted him in strategically putting an end to the uprising. Robert Sims and his wife also appear to have their own hidden intentions rather than working for him. They use the increasing turmoil to further their objectives and appear overly focused on moving up the silo structure. Bernard's situation worsens as a result of having no one to support him. To prevent things from getting worse, Bernard gives Billings the order to arrest Shirley and Knox. Nevertheless, Billings is also beginning to see Bernard's hypocrisy. Billings may turn against Bernard after discovering the truth about the silo's numerous secrets from Patrick Kennedy. Solo discloses that an external source provides power to the IT. Following Bernard's instructions, Lucas patches the damaged hard disk Juliet had previously purchased later in the Silo Season 2 episode. He discovers a Silo 18 blueprint that depicts external lines entering the IT division. It's clear that Silo 18's IT is also being powered by an outside source, even if Lucas doesn't appear to understand what these lines possibly represent. IT's link to an outside source appears to show that there are larger forces at work, but only time will tell where these lines lead. In the fourth episode of Silo Season 2, Bernard killed Meadows primarily because he believed she posed a threat by attempting to exit the silo, but Robert Sims's plot to have her impeached also influenced his resolve to kill her. Bernard understood that the scheme to impeach her would damage her reputation with the superiors and make them hostile to the silo's leadership. He thus created a divide between the upper and lower levels of the silo by using her as a scapegoat. Bernard may have thought about using Robert Sims as his shadow in the past, but he comes to the realization that he can no longer trust him after the betrayal. However, Bernard also realizes that Sims is too valuable for him to just throw away. He therefore establishes him as the head of the judiciary. As demonstrated in Episode 5 of Silo Season 2, this also does not appear to be in Bernard's best interests, because Robert's wife starts to subtly exert her influence by controlling her husband. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.